All right, now for our particle systems, we're going to be talking about voids. As you can see on the right here, we have a lot of different settings that we mess with our particle systems. For example, in our physics tab, we have a physics type. Now we've went over Newtonian, but I also want to go over one called voids. I'm going to go ahead and switch this over to voids. Now, as you can see, we have quite a different behavior here with our voids system. Now, voids is basically an artificial intelligence that acts like wildlife, or birds, for instance. So we're going to have a lot going on here, but there's a couple of key settings that I want to go over with you guys that are going to really help you utilize the voids system within the particle system editor. The best way that I can possibly explain voids to you is that they're not really random particles like from before where they fall or they rise, but rather you have to give them rules in order for them to follow the rules that you set. For example, you may have them travel to a certain target, you may have them avoid an object, or you might even just have them avoid each other. Again, when we think about voids, you have to remember that there's a couple of different options that are really important within our movement category. You can see right here we have allow flight checked. We also have allow land and allow climbing. These three are super important. Basically what they mean is if you allow flight of the particles can fly, or they can move through the air, through the volume of the air. If you allow land, that means that they can actually crawl around or sort of walk on a surface. And then if you allow climbing, that means they can move vertically on top of a surface to get around an object. Let's go over some of these examples. Now, in order to see how the void system actually works, what we need to do is we need to take a look at something called the void brain. So on the right, I'm going to go ahead and expand this so we can see this a little bit more. I'm going to click on void brain, and you'll see there's a couple of different things going on here. These are actually the rules that we set for our void system. So you can think of this artificial intelligence as having some sort of goal that you set for it, or a system of rules. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to remove these other two right here. You can see we have flock and separate. I'm going to go ahead and click on one of those and click on this little minus sign, and it's going to actually remove that rule. And now you'll see that the voids behave a little bit differently. Now, I want to add a rule that allows our voids to follow something, or almost be attracted to it like a magnet. Now you'll see we have two options on the right. We have goal and flock. I'm going to get rid of I'm going to get rid of flock by pressing the minus sign, and I'm going to keep goal. Now you'll notice with goal that it says something right here, says object. Now if you don't see goal right here, just click on this little plus sign and find where it says goal. That's how you add that back in there. You can have as many goals as you want. I'm going to go ahead and add an object for our voids to follow. I'll just add in a cube here. I'll scale it down. And then I think I'll just move it right over here off to the left so you can see how this example works. I'm going to click back on my particle system. I'm going to scroll down here, and I'm going to select my eyedropper tool, and I'm going to simply select the cube. Now notice how all of our void particles want to follow the cube, and they actually go inside of the cube itself. Either way, this is a great example of how you can actually get particles to now follow something. Now, in addition to using the goal method within the void brain, I also want to show you guys the follow the leader method. So let's say that you got rid of everything within your void brain and you went all the way back to frame 0. What I want you guys to do is click on this plus sign here. I want you to add the follow leader option, and it's very similar to before. I'm going to go ahead and click on the eyedropper tool. I'm going to select our cube. I'm going to press play. And then I'm going to click on my cube and actually move it around while our simulation plays. And you can see how our particles want to now follow this cube, okay? And this is very similar to if you had sort of a bunch of geese flying through the air and you wanted them to all follow the leader, right? Have you ever seen how they have that V formation? This is a very good example of how you could get that to happen. Alrighty, so for this next example, I want to show you guys how we can also avoid objects while also having a goal object. In this case, our cube down below will be our goal object, and if I press play, you'll see that nothing happens because we don't have our new goal set up. Now let me go ahead and scroll down to the void brain. I'll remove everything by pressing minus. I'll go ahead and click on goal. I'll add that in, and then I'll simply select my cube. Now, if we back this up, we should have all objects flowing to our cube, which we do. Now, there's another option in here, if I press plus, called avoid collision. Now, if I add that in, you'll see that there's no objects to select, because what Blender is going to do is it's going to look for any object with a collision property on it. So I'll go ahead and add in how about a cube here? I'll scale it down on the Z-axis. I'll go ahead and move it right here. And I'm going to also move our cube way out. I'm going to rotate this just a little bit. I'm also going to turn on my random colors so you guys can really see what's going on here. And the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure you guys can see what my keys are that I'm pressing. I'm going to go ahead and click on my cube. Sorry, I'm going to click on my particle system, scroll down, and everything should be good to go. We just need to add a collision to this object. So let's go to our physics properties, and let's add a collision. Now, the Boids should try to avoid this. Let's go ahead and see if this works. As you can see, they'll still collide, but they're also trying to still reach the goal. Now, here's what's really cool. What we're going to do is we're going to go to the particle system. We're actually going to go all the way up to the top. We're going to scroll to the top of our settings. And for the lifetime, I think I'm going to set this to 500 so that all the particles don't die. Right now, our timeline is set to 250 down here, so all of our particles should be able to flow to our cube. Now look at that. Now everything's trying to flow to the cube while also avoiding our collision object. Now what's really cool is what I can do is I can set up an obstacle course. So I'm going to go to my side view. I'm going to move my cube down here, and I'm going to go ahead and duplicate Shift D, our platforms here, scale this up a little bit, Shift D again, and let's go ahead and make this cube kind of hard to reach. Let's go ahead and try something like that. Now, what should happen, and I'm going to give this a super quick save and call this Boids example. Well, what should happen is as soon as I press play, all right, these should flow around our collision objects. Now, they will still hit our collision objects. Let's go ahead and see what happens. So they still hit our collision objects. Look how they're trying their best to get around and get to our cube, and they're finding their way in. Now you can see only a few of them make it. Let's see if we can make this a little bit easier for our spheres here. Let's go ahead and move this guy up just a little bit. That looks a little bit easier. Let's try this out. All right. There we go. Now they're getting through. You can see they're actually disappearing. They're dying just a little bit here. Now, this is a great example of our Boid system trying to reach a goal while also avoiding something else.